everybody. So I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see even switched off cameras, but I hope for more vivid discussion during the second part of today's meeting after the break, when we are going to have a students forum. And what about the first part of today's our activities? We'll have 6 presentations. The first 2 presentations, they are going to be presentations by the students from Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv, who actually have their course on urban regeneration, and they work with 2 backyards in Troyeshina neighborhood, so exactly the same Troyeshina neighborhoods, and they have elaborated their basic concepts, how they are, their vision, how it should be regenerated, how it should be transformed to be more attractive, to be more safe, to be more pleasant in terms of scenery, to be more stable in terms of ecology, and so on. So we'll have these 2 presentations, each approximately 15 minutes long. And after that, we are asking 4 groups which were working yesterday to present their results, their conceptualizations, their ideas about the challenges, about some probably key solutions of urban development according to the defined topics. So first, it will be housing and habitat group you present. Then the second one is going to be public spaces, then heritage and cultural context, and then mobility. So in this order, I propose to arrange this. And you also will have 15 minutes each group for your presentations. So, and now I propose maybe to start with presentation. So I invite Kyiv University students, the team who worked with so-called green or southern yard. Please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we see your presentation.
Okay, it's good. To begin with, in the modern world, when urbanization is rapidly gaining momentum, public spaces become vital centers of life, communication, and recreation for millions of people. Therefore, the regeneration of the imperfect country yard space in the ninth courtyard or Troyeshina will enhance the comfort of residents' lives. After conducting field research of the area and carrying out a sociological survey, several conclusions were drawn based on which ideas for improving the functionality of the courtyard space were presented. It is planned to create infrastructure for active recreation and communication for residents, as well as green areas. Next slide. Okay. As we can see on the slide, as in most courtyards built according in Soviet standards, the concept of accessibility was not considered in the planning. The lack of proper infrastructure, such as ramps or well-maintained surfaces, complicates life in the area for the people with limited mobility, especially for those who use crutches or wheelchairs. In particular, the absence of ramps and the mismatch of sidewalk heights to the foundation level creates serious difficulties for people with disabilities. Throughout interviews with the courtyard residents conducted as part of the research, we once again reaffirmed the importance of creating an accessible environment comfortable for all residents to use. This is our top priority, so any further proposal of ours, whether it's a new playground or another recreational area, automatically includes this concept. Access to buildings from the courtyard should be unimpeded without additional protrusions, curbs, and so on. Fortunately, additional ramps are not needed, as it can be seen that the entrances do not have long stairs. In future parking lots, parking spaces for people with disabilities must be designated. Existing pathways are repaired to ensure even surfaces, and any thresholds are eliminated. Next slide. A common mistake in design in Ukraine is that the principle of barrier-free access is not applied comprehensively. That is, we may create great conditions in the courtyard, but neglect to address the residential buildings where users of these courtyards reside, resulting in our space remaining non-inclusive. The slide shows an example of one of the entrances to building in the surveyed courtyard, where a typical problem to panel building is observed. These are stairs to the first floor. It is clear that a person with disabilities in a wheelchair cannot overcome this obstacle easily. For other people with limited mobility, such as the elderly or parents with children, the situation is not as bad, but difficulties in movement still arise. Speaking about the concept of reasonable accommodation in a perfect world, a ground level lift that directly accesses the courtyard could be installed. This sounds ambitious, but the realization of such an idea is doubtful, of course. Questions immediately arise, such as whether there is enough funding, whether such an initiative will be accepted by the residents in public discussions, or whether it is technically feasible to modify the building in this way. Therefore, for now, it is better to focus on adaptations that are easier to reproduce in Ukrainian realities. All that remains for us is to find a lift that can be accommodated in a narrow spaces. And this is just one of the most striking examples of necessary changes. Braille fonts in elevators or replacing doors with wider ones, the list can go on and go on. But in this case, one thing must be understood: accessibility should be everywhere. First and foremost, we would like to mention the internal courtyard passages. Our idea is to base it on Dutch design, which has several distinctive features, artificial bends in the roadway. Soviet courtyards often have very wide, straight passages. We must consider that many children use this space. Children are unpredictable, so they may step onto the road at any moment. So artificial bends in the trajectory of vehicle movement will have reduced their speed to 10 or 15 kilometers per hour. Additionally, for added safety and barriers, the limit visibility for drivers should be removed along the passages. Another feature is elevated pedestrian and vehicle crossing points. We have decided that it's worth conditionally dividing the pedestrian area and the vehicle area. The surfaces of this area should differ. However, it's not advisable to experiment with the cobblestones for the sake of aesthetics. The roads should be smooth and comfortable for everyone. We should prioritize pedestrians at points where their movement intersects with vehicular traffic. For this purpose, we propose paving the intersection with the tiles that correspond to the pedestrian area and raising this area to the level of the pedestrian zone. And of course, there should be absence of high curbs in the courtyard. According to our plan, the passages will have width of 3.5 meters. However, when considering passages along with pedestrian zones, the total width will range from 5 to 6.5 meters. Low curbs allow one wheel to enter the pedestrian zone when there is a need to maneuver between two cars. This solution, in turn, can play a role in calming traffic. Parking spaces, according to our plan, will be arranged in such way as not to obstruct free passage. Parking spaces for people with disabilities will be located closer to the entrances of the residential building. In fact, we would prefer to see car storage outside the courtyard. For example, there are many unused space around the courtyard where a multi-story parking would be located. The design scheme of pedestrian paths is close to the real routes of people. People have optimized their daily routes by walking along the courtyard at the shortest way. Currently, there are few people's paths in the area that have been chosen by residents over the years. Their width and quantity indicate that the surveyed area has high transit traffic and is often used. We propose converting a large portion of them into permanent pathways that will be convenient for everyone. It is interesting that their layout mainly replicates triangular forms. One of our first ideas is urban food gardens. An area with special boxes will be allocated for residents to grow fresh produce. This solution is popular in the USA and European countries, but not widespread in Ukraine. The main risks for such gardens include theft of products, infrastructure damage, pests, and plant diseases. To minimize these risks, it's necessary to involve local residents in caring for the space. The more people understand its value, the more public oversight there will be. According to the survey conducted in this area, 1/3 of respondents are already involved in courtyard landscaping. Their main activity is greening the courtyard. Therefore, we can conclude that this proposal will be in demand and will diversify the types of activities for the population. The interview results show that residents greatly lack greenery, hence they have a desire to engage in greening themselves. We can assist them in this and implement specific plans and ideas from the residents themselves. For example, some respondents mentioned that they would like to see fruit and berry trees, cherry blossoms, magnolias, low shrubs, and more flowers in their courtyard. To reduce financial costs, perennial flowers should be chosen. We also propose diversifying flower composition with perennial decorative herbs and grasses, which are mostly low maintenance. And here are a few more nice examples of greening the space that we propose. According to the interview results, residents complain about the quality of external lighting, illumination in their courtyards. Most respondents see that this is a reason why they don't feel safe in the evening. The photos provided confirm that the illumination is really bad, as it's very dim and yellow. As an example, consider installing modern LED lighting. The slide shows excellent options for practical lanterns with minimalist designs that will undoubtedly suit the newly transformed area. These pictures are an ideal alternative to old street lights, and they save 3 times as much electricity. Among other advantages, they are resistant to voltage fluctuation, or should be noted. Unfortunately, this point is very important due to Russia's constant attacks on Ukrainian power grid. Undoubtedly, an essential component of our territory is children's playgrounds. They often play a key role in how residents and their guests perceive their courtyard space. This statement is confirmed in practice. Our interviews were conducted on a weekday during daylight hours, so most respondents are aged 26 or 44 years who were walking with children or passing by. Consequently, they have an interest in diversifying children's activities. In the courtyard, there is one nice playground and 2 old ones that need renovation. It is interesting that children from neighboring courtyards also come to our surveyed courtyard. Well, regarding the materials for the new playgrounds, there are such thoughts. It is preferable to use natural materials, such as wood rather than plastic. Children's playgrounds should not only be physically accessible, but also inclusive so that every child can feel connected to the space and community. It is these details that help make the space modern, attractive, and accessible to everyone. To diversify the range of activities in the courtyard, so to speak, we decided that a sport ground is necessary. There is already a sport ground on the territory standard for Kyiv. Since not everyone can afford to go to a gym, we would like to keep it. We consider it a good alternative to the gym for people who care about their health and want to keep their body in shape. However, we believe that the existing sports ground should be relocated and equipped with a rubber surface. Perhaps it would also be better to consider adding other types of equipment, especially those that would be beneficial for people with disabilities. This way, we will make the space useful and comfortable for all residents of the courtyard without exception. In developing the concept, we focused on the basic needs and desires of the residents. During the interviews, several residents mentioned that it would be nice to add a table for table tennis to the courtyard. We decided that this idea should be taken into account as it's aimed at a wide range of people of all ages, regardless of gender. This can be explained by the lack of the need for special physical training and the ease of use. The cost of equipment is relatively small, and just one or two tables would provide residents with an alternative for social interaction in the courtyard. In our opinion, a quite relevant addition to the transformation of the area would be drinking fountains. This solution will be most relevant for children who actively spend their time on playgrounds and for users of the sport ground. Moreover, having unlimited access to drinking water will allow for a more comfortable stay in the courtyard space during hot weather. The next aspect we have considered is the need to place benches in our area for people to interact and improve their relationship. Benches should be distributed throughout the courtyard, accompanied by trash bins. Specifically, benches should be placed near the entrances to residential buildings, near playgrounds, and along pedestrian paths. Most respondents note that they do not consider the courtyard accessible to various age groups. In particular, teenagers and adults feel excluded. We propose to address this issue by installing not only regular-sized benches, but also large multi-tiered ones. They will become a place where people of different ages can relax outdoors and communicate, exchanging experience, and so on. Well, another idea we have is gazebos, where an additional space for barbecue can be allocated. We want to provide residents with the opportunity to have a great evening or weekend in the warm season without having to go far. They also has another special function as it can serve as a temporary shelter during bad weather, which will be relevant all year round. There is a risk that marginalized groups will gather there. Concerns about this are voiced by the residents themselves during interviews. This is another reason why updating the illumination in the courtyard is an important point for generating the space, as it will allow monitoring of the situation. The mentioned risks can undoubtedly affect the further success of this idea, but with a comprehensive approach and so-called grid illumination at the development stages, the best results can be achieved. Our next idea is chess and checkers tables. A present issue in Ukrainian society is the acute sense of loneliness among elderly people. So first and foremost, we consider the installation of these tables as one way to improve the current situation. Although, of course, the base can be used by any category of the population, perhaps this will also encourage children to discover something new together with their parents. In any case, it's important to note that these tables do not necessarily have to be used for games. It can be a great place for simple communication, white rest, or even a small picnic, so users for this space will always be found. We also consider the idea of placing cat houses on the territory of their courtyard to be quite apt. And residents of the buildings support the idea of comfort for animals. A large number of cats have been found on the territory on the surveyed area. Cat houses will provide them with shelter, a place to rest, and entertainment, which will accordingly contribute to their well-being and improve their quality of life. Moreover, this will help control the number of stray cats. Also, the problem of garbage in the courtyard is quite acute. While we propose installing small regular trash bins near benches to ensure tidiness, we suggest installing underground garbage containers to address the issue of waste near residential buildings. Here we can see advantages of underground garbage containers, like effective use of space, better view of the outdoor space, prevention of smells and pollution, and of course, obvious drawbacks like high installation cost and maintenance. The containers require regular technical maintenance and waste removal. Finally, another idea for transforming existing property in the courtyard. On the slide, we can see so-called mushrooms, mainly used as shade sources. Solar panels can be installed on the roofs of these structures, and this new vision of using objects also creates a new space for example, charging phones. The final point of our presentation is the presentation of our concept on the courtyard scheme. In its development, we have focused on the comfort and well-being of the courtyard residents. For the best result, we took into account all the wishes and comments of the residents regarding their courtyard space. The presented ideas will help make life in this courtyard interesting, safe, and barrier-free. Our vision of this territory, thanks to an great number of recreation areas, creates good condition for interaction between residents and building good relationship among them. In addition, among the named areas, there are places for active recreation, which promotes a healthy lifestyle and longer stays outdoors. While recreation areas are presented in various forms, which also excludes discrimination against any age group, as all interests are taken into account. Despite this, the territory is not overloaded with the various recreation areas, as the main goal is to consider the context of the territory and take into account the opinions of the residents. Well, as you can see, we see a list of students who worked on the concept, so we are approaching the end of our presentation. Therefore, thank you for your attention. If you have any question, you can ask them now or write in the chat, so we will try to answer them.
Yes, thank you, Natalia, and the whole team so much for your presentation. So please, dear participants, if you have any questions.
Yes, I agree, Oleski. I think it would be really nice if people can share thoughts and opinions or questions or ideas to make this a little bit more interactive, and it's not just us speaking, but everyone is quiet.
Okay, I have some small question. How do you think that people living in these buildings around this yard, are they ready to take the responsibility in case if your project is realized? Responsibility for maintenance, for protection against some undesired interventions and so on.
Yeah, as I already mentioned, it's like only a vision, but if we would like to give the life to this project, first of all, we should like ask the resident, the dwellers about their opinion of these changes, and also tell them about all the advantages and the disadvantages of these changes. So it could be really difficult, like to to take to our mind to all the opinions of the people, but if we will trying like to unite them, it's like the mentality, we can't like force them to do something, but if they were able to see how it can change for their like better future life, as for me, it would be really easy to recreate this courtyard in something really better because of their own desire to do something.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions? You may write in chat.
If I can ask a short question. First, thank you so much, Natalia and the whole team for your presentation. It was really interesting. One short question which I would like to ask is concerning the process of implementation. How do you see the process, how it should be implemented? What are the main stages? Because you have mentioned that you would like to ask the public opinion and so on. And for sure you need some kind of coordination with the local authorities. So what main stages do you see?
I'm thinking if someone from our team would like to answer, but no one is here. So your question is about maybe like real steps of implementation. Okay, first of all, it's like I mentioned, public maybe discussion, then interaction with some local government, I guess, because it's really it's vital. And then maybe we just propose these plans to some organization that can contribute some. I don't talk about money, just maybe some stuff like wood or something like that, just to start our work, to start to create this space. So maybe it's like first 3 steps. But then when the work will start, I guess that every member of our team would like to contribute, would like to take part in some of these changes, and then we will like make this place better by contributing by helping and also by interacting with the residential owners and also government.
Okay. Thank you, Natalia. And I think we should go to the next presentation. So please, the team who worked with the so-called blue yard or northern yard.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, and we hear you.
Okay, thank you. And I ask Maria Khimichuk, please start.
So here you can see our concept of regeneration, creation, residential area. Next slide. Okay.
You can see only the first slide? Or
no, I can see. Yes. So here you can see the whole map of the creation and the map of our yard. Number 9. It's surrounded by streets by Honora de Balzac, Червоної Калини Ave, Sergio Efara Street, and Kostyantyna Dankiewicz Street. Червоної Калини Ave, it's one of the most busiest street in the Troyeshina district, so it has its own influence to our district. As you see, our country yard, our yard is surrounded by 4 houses, and there are some buildings for people's needs. Next slide. next time. As it is in the current state, as you know, the Troyeshchina was planned in the 80s year, so it was made how it was appropriate for that time, but it was 40 years ago, and since that this yard became not you have this it isn't fun, but people would prefer do not to use it for there's almost a sit area. So our project is renovate.
Maria, we cannot hear you. Looks like you froze.
Yes, I think she has problems with. She wrote to me that she has problems with the internet. Okay, so I will continue, and here you can see the current state of our area, and you can see here no people, no good organization of this place, so only cars, only one person who is sitting on the bench and nothing else. And now let's think about accessibility of our area. And here you can see the pedestrian path with very, very bad quality, and no accessibility for people with some injuries. And our suggestion is to make a barrier-free country yard on one level. So we want to say that we need to make all of the paths, both for cars and both for cars and pedestrians on one level. So all of the people can move here pretty well. And playground and recreational area were created here, and the yard was asphalted with the removal of parking places. The yard has a slope, so to avoid flooding or something like this. So as I will say it later, that this area has some problems with it. So here you can see our suggestions on the pictures, and it is an example of Darnitska Street 4 that is located in in Dnipro city in Ukraine also. And now let's talk about waste containers, because it is also very huge problem. So now you can see on this picture only one, and I can say that it is waste container. It is some area that is for all of the waste, and this container, let's say it like this, it is for all of the surrounding buildings here, residential buildings. And I think that you can imagine how it is small for all of the available number of houses. It is also lack of containers, as I said before, lack of sorting, and huge unsettledness. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous, so I can repeat some things in the moments. And of course, here you can see that there is a lack of access for special transport. So here you also can see pedestrian paths and no accessibility for special transport. So here are no waste, but you can see that there are some papers, some cigarettes, and something like this, and it is very unattractive. And I think that one of the most important is location next to a children's playground. It can be dangerous for children, and it is very, very bad. And our decision, it is, first of all, we need to see to the requirements of setting these waste containers. And first of all, it is 20 to 100 meters from residential buildings. And also what I said before, that it is very important to set it from 30 to 50 meters from a playground, park, or something like this. And on for one ground, no more than 5 containers. It will be pretty enough for all of the buildings. And of course, it needs to be a convenient access for special transport. So we can so this transport can bring this waste and go to the next buildings. And of course, it can be some sorting for example, glass, paper, and plastic. It will be quite enough, and also for some nature waste like lacks of our food. And the alternative decision, it is a real example in Kyiv on Dniprovska embankment 25. It is also on the left side of the Dnipro River as a Trieshina also. And here you can see one big container that is closed for all of the people. And here you can see that there are some passcode for only for people who live there, and it is also a very good result, and it is a new container, I think I can say it's like this. And also the next problem, it is bins, like small bins where you can put like your cup of coffee and something like this. And the current situation, it is, you can see here that there is a very small amount of these bins and they are located on the children's playgrounds. And it is also not very good situation. And here also you can see benches also only on the playgrounds. And it is also very bad because there are a lot of people who wants to for example, drink some alcoholic beverages, and it also can be dangerous for children. And of course, here you can see a small capacity of these bins, lack of sorting, and lack of sidewalks at major intersections. For example, we could put them like here. I hope that you can see my markers, and here, and also put them in some different places, not only here. And also decision, it is add basic sorting and place trash bins at the intersection of pedestrian paths where there is the highest concentration of people. And it is example of some trash bins with sorting in Kyiv parks. So it is also a real example. Here you can see the mark of Kyiv Zelen Bud. It is like our organization that takes care of these spaces, and it is our general vision of this space. So here we need to put this big waste container from this place to this place, and also with some sorting with containers, as I said before, and some small bins on these intersections. Also, as I was saying, as I was talking about before. Next part, it is pedestrian path. The current situation, it is, you can see, and you can see what quality it has now. And it is very good that these photos was taken when it rained. So you can see that now it is unavailable for people to walk there. But that paths there are now here that are like settled for the people. There are people don't use them because it is not so convenient for them. Like these passes, they are shorter than the passes that people who were settling this, they want to people to walk there. They are inconvenient, so people walk like they want. And you can see how it looks like. And decision is to paving of existing and trodden paths with sidewalk tiles. And their concepts, they are environmental friendliness. They have high decorative effect. The rainwater can penetrate into the seams, and it is possible to pave tiles even on inclined surfaces. And you can see that these surfaces really can be inclined. Their width, it is minimum 2.25 meters. So it can be also available for all of the people, but not only for one person to go by them. And it is our final vision, including also waste containers and bins, as I was saying before. The next part is parking zones, and here you can see how it can look like. There are also some real examples. It is Stepan Bandera Street, and there are a parking zone with some wallets, maybe, you know. So you have like one road, and this is like a zone for parking your automobiles, and also it can be eco parking. This is our decision. So now it looks like this. So here you can see a lot of cars and no green zones, but we can put here some more green zones and smaller parking zones, and also parking zones for people who have some injuries. And it is another side of this area. So now also we want to talk about elimination. When all of us know that the safe street needs to have a lot of illumination, so all of the people could be visible and feel that they are in safe. But on Troyeshina, it is not all in all of the places, because as we can see, like in this red squad, that here are some places where you couldn't see all of the places. So we can see here that there are some dark zones. Yes, here is insufficient lighting. It is color. We can see here this yellow color that is quite dark for this area. Lack of lights in some places, low quality of lighting, unevenness, and light scattering. So also, as I said before, it wouldn't be safe for all of the people. And we had an interview with residentials, and they said that there are not a lot of illumination, so I don't want to go out at night. And our decision is replacement of old sodium and other lamps with light-emitting diode lamps to improve the quality and energy efficiency of lighting. And what about energy? It is really important for Ukraine now. So it would be a very, very good decision. Then it is installing smart lighting fixtures that can be controlled by light level and time, implementation of an automatic dimming system to save energy during periods of less activity. So it really could be a very good decision of this problem, because now it means a lot. And also we can use some solar panels for self-sufficiency, increase efficiency and reduce costs, and use motion sensors also to activate lighting only in areas where there is human activity. And it would also save a lot of energy. And also some pictures how it can look like. Next part, it is barbecue area, some gazebos, and entertainment for adults. Because now, in current situation, we can see that there are also, not also, there is only some children playgrounds and no benches, no activities for adults. So they are not on this territory. They are only go to their houses and nothing else. But we want to improve it. We want people to spend their time in their territory. So we want to put here some barbecue area. So in this weather like it is now, we have sunny weather. We have quite warm weather outside. So people can go out and make some barbecue, sit there, communicate, and just spend a very good and pleasant time near their house. Also, it could be gazebos and yes, something like this. Because now this territory is small and it is like has a neglected, unaesthetic appearance. So it is not so good. I think that you can agree with me that this state you don't want to be here. You want to be like this in some of these projects. So it would be a bit better. And also brown area. It is this barbecue area. Gray lines. It is those pedestrian paths that I said before, and this green part. It is something that I would say a bit later. And also some examples here. This gazebo, it was a public space in Mariupol. And it was, as you can see, it had a lot of people in there. So it is a really good decision for this problem, for unevenness and unaesthetic state. And next part, it is playground. And also it has irrational use of space. So we have here like two zones, but we can see that they are not in use. And they don't encourage children to spend time there. Also, parents don't want to their children to go to these places. They are also non-inclusive. It is also very important. And you also, I think that you also don't want to your children to go in on this playground. You want them to something better. And our decision, it is to put some, for example, at first it needs to be some inclusive space, interesting, special and interactive solutions that are affordable, high quality modern arrangement that promotes children's development, and the most important here, it is safe space. Children need to be safe in their area, in their territory. So I also think that you will agree with me that this area is more safe than this area. And also, if we move a little bit back to elimination, you can imagine. So lack of elimination, like such playgrounds, it is not so good. And alternative of this playground, it could be sport ground, because outside of this territory, there are pretty good playgrounds. So a lot of children with their parents spend time there. So we decided that people who live there, they can decide what they want to see there. So we can offer them to choose. They want to see here playground or sport ground, and it will be also sport ground. It will be inclusive. It will be with all of the needs that sport ground needs to have. So you can see also the example. And also we want to put here some landscaping. So people who live there, they can raise some trees, some fruit trees, and it really can help to make this territory more green. I think that you also understand me. And so yes, it is our urban gardens suggestion, because now we can see here only some grass and nothing else. So it is also unaesthetic. It is not beautiful. So they can minimize or solve problems related to local heat islands. It is also very important in the summer, because here are also a lot of buildings, so they make like very huge this heat island. So it is also biodiversity loss, greenhouse gas emissions, and air pollution. So only cons. Pros, I don't see them, so I think it will be good. And also shelters. It is also very important in our situation right now, because there are a lot of air raid missiles in Kyiv, and people need to have shelters. And here you can see examples, because now on Troyeshina there are no shelters with good quality. So we need to think about it at first. So if we need to choose what we can do at first, it would be shelters, I think. And it also can be shelter hill. It is also our suggestion, so we can think about it. And the last one, it is houses for cats. There are a lot of cats on this area, and they don't live in some houses. So we thought that we can make some houses for them, so locals can feed them, can take care of them, and it would also attract people to go on this territory to play with some cats, also from another districts in Kyiv, because it can be some uniqueness for this area, because for example, on my area where I live, I don't have a lot of cats, so I like cats and I would like to go in there, and it would be beautiful. I also would pick them some food, and of course we need to make it safe, so not so we can't decide that we just want to make it bigger and bigger, but there are also some cats, so we need to take care of them and not let them die with some bad things. And example, it is Odessa city, and here are some suggestions how we also can make it. And for conclusions, what I can say that now this area, this ground, is in really bad quality, as you can see, and I think you will agree with me. And if we decide even one problem, let it be waste containers, let it be pedestrian paths, or houses of cats, or shelters, as I said before, this area would be better. And thank you for your attention. If you have some questions, please ask me.
Okay, thank you, Elizaveta. Thank you, Maria, the presenters of the second team. So, dear audience, are there any questions or comments? Any feedback, Volodymyr Obukhov?
Many announced about cats. What about other animals? Dogs, birds?
It can be. Also, we thought about dogs, not only cats, but cats, it is just as example. Also, it can be another pets, and we are open for this.
Okay, any more questions?
Thank you, Elizabeth and Maria and the rest of the team for your presentation. I was wondering, both teams focused a lot on the infrastructure in terms of lighting, of waste management, and accessible playgrounds and community spaces. Have you had like any like survey maybe with the people who live there that highlighted that these are the things that they are looking for?
Yes, we had a survey. We had an interview with locals, so we asked them some list of questions. So, for example, do you like your area? What do you want to change in your area? What do you lack in this area? And this presentation was made after this survey. So
the barbecue, because it's so specific, these solutions are so specific, and I wonder if they reflect what after the feedback you got from the surveys.
Also, what about barbecue? We had one interesting case of Slavutic city. It is near Chernobyl, and after the war started, they also had this barbecue area in their area, and they was in blockade. If you know some words that is better, please help me. And they didn't have any food. They didn't have any food in the markets. So also they didn't have electricity, water, and something like this. So this barbecue area was their solution for this problem. And it is one case. But another case, it is a lot of people in this weather go to some parks, some forest area to make this barbecue. So why we can't let them do it near their houses? Because it will encourage a lot of people to spend time there. And as we said yesterday, that there are not a lot of people on Tryeshina, so they are moving from this district to another places. So we need to encourage them to spend time there. So we can ask them, do you want to see here some barbecue area? And if they want, if it helps them to spend more time there, we will do it. Why not?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And anyway, is it possible to scale some of your proposals, some of your ideas on the other yards in Troyeshin or any other mass housing area in Ukraine or in broader context?
Of course. And first of all, it is about shelters, because even on my district, I live not far from Troyeshina, but there are also some problems with shelters. So I would be happy if there are some of such type of shelter will be near my house. I would go in there, because I don't have a good shelter with a good quality near my house. So I need to stay in a bathroom and bag gas, so I wouldn't die. So it really would help me. And also, what about some benches? It also will be good. And I think that we need to analyze each yard, each yard, not like saying that if it is good for Tryeshina, it will be good for another yard. No, it is it is incorrect, and I think that we can try to put these ideas, but analyze how it will be good for each area.
Thank you. Any more comments? I think that we already have a delay, 8 minutes. So in order not to borrow some time from the next speakers, I propose to switch to our presentations by the groups, thematic groups. So I invite the first group, which are going to present ideas about the main issues related to housing and habitat. So you may speak in voice, you may share your screen to show your some important ideas and so on. So you are free in your instruments how to present it. So please.
So the housing group, have you guys decided who is going to present?
It is two housing groups or only one?
No, it's one housing group.
Only one.
Okay, and then it is we, and I'm making screen.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see.
Here you can see our communication chat. We will skip it. And we will come to housing and habitat. First of all, we will talk about the backgrounds of Kyiv, Tryeshina, some kind of history and statistics. Then we will talk about challenges which we meet in Ukraine, in Kyiv. Then we will speak about comparison of origin and Ukrainian experience, on example of Athens and Kyiv, and opportunities and strategies. So we will come to background of Kyiv. Here is some statistics that were taken in the area of that study program. It represents the idea that if we observe the Troyeshina location on each map shows that the first map shows that the population of Troyeshina is very overcrowded, and it is the second biggest by population Kyiv district. Then a little bit housing info, we can see that it is mostly the old housing before 90s, and the third map shows us the difficulty to get to work for about 30 minutes from Troyeshina district. Then small info about the population. We can see that where are the main residential subcenters and commercial subcenters. We can see that the area of Troyeshina is a little bit avoided by commerce. Now we are talking about Troyeshina housing estate. Here is a short history intro, but I think that everyone here are already know some info about, so I will not make some plug into the history. So location, which I have already observed. Now we are coming to challenges. The main challenges, it was the proposal by Antonia Nadia. She advised us to take a look to the area of Ukraine and its main challenges. So if we are going from the war line to abroad, we can see the amount of damage decreasing and the amount of refugees increasing. Also, we have observed the main needs of people which are living in each area. For example, if we're talking about the exactly area of conflict, the main challenges, the main needs are food and supplies. If we're talking about the second line, it is safety and medical supplies. And if we are coming to the third and the fourth line, it is housing needs, the workplaces and money investitions. It is example we were a little bit brainstorming about the main questions we want to observe, and further we will talk about them. Now I give the speech to my colleague. She will speak a little bit about the Athens experience.
So this is a timeline of the development of Greece. And since 2000, Greece has experienced a lot of crises, which include the economic crisis, refugee crisis, and the climate crisis. And here I want to focus on the refugee crisis because we can make a comparison between Athens and the case of Ukraine. As far as I know, most of the country have mechanism for the social housing, but Greece doesn't have it now. And since 2004, after the Olympic Games, the Olympic Village became the last social housing in Athens. And there are no more new built social housings in Athens now. And in 2015, because of the refugee crisis, millions of refugees came to Athens, but unfortunately, there are no social housing for them to live. So it appeared a phenomenon which is called squat. Squat is an informal occupation of a vacant housing by some refugees and some actives. But it is informal, so they will face a danger of being evicted by the homeowners. Well, another formal housing is provided by the government at that time, because during 2015 and 2019, the housing prices is very low and there is a very high rate of vacancy in Athens. So the government are able to buy a lot of housing and provide them to those refugees. However, after 2019, because of the revitalize of the housing market and the housing price became higher and higher, the government are not able to afford the housing. So those refugees are all faced being evicted again. Next, please. So you can see from those two maps, the big outline is the metropolitan area of Athens, and the small outline is the municipality of Athens. Yes, you can see the legend that is wrote here. EAP, the OEK, and the DPORS. Those are some organizations which had provided the social housing for those vulnerable groups before 2004. But you can see the distribution are mainly concentrated on the west-north part of the metropolitan of Athens, and the number are very limited. Next, please. And here is a comparison of the foreign experience. Athens not experienced the war recent years, and in addition, it has a large number of housing stock, but it's still lack of social housing because those housing stock cannot be used now because of the self-built and the self-management systems we called polykatokia from 1950s to 1970s. So a lot of housing are lack of maintenance and have a bad qualities. Well, in Kyiv, it experienced a military invasion these days. The loss of housing stock is not significant to affect the overall statistics, but the main problem is the housing stock and the old housing stock and the low quality of those housing stock. And there are no new social housing built now. So those old housing and low quality housing took over the role of the social housing. And because Soviet housing was not designed to meet today's challenges. So by comparing the two situations, we can conclude some similarities between the two cities. They both lack of social housing and affordable housing, and they have some old housing stock, but they have low qualities, and both lack of the policies and mechanism to renovate it and regenerate the old housing. Next.
And now, when we have experienced our experience, the experience of Athens, we are coming to opportunities. Bogdan, are you representing the slide, or I will speak? Okay.
Yes, I'm here. I'm glad to present you my part of presentation. And also I'm glad to tell you about our opinion of opportunity of Ukraine until war and post-war reconstruction. To start, I want to tell you about the impact of war that we already have. The main is the destroy of the housing, the displacement of the residents. Also, Ukrainians' economic losses have already amounted to $155 billion as of January 2024. The problem of the social crisis in society, demographic crisis. Also, the main topic is what we can do for refugees and how we should design the shelter for them. We think that we can create a safe and comfortable condition for displaced people and important for their integration into society. Also, in the case of Ukraine cities, allowing IDPs to create their communities within new cities fosters a sense of culture, belonging, while preserving their identity. And the last one, it is also very important topic is what about post-war reconstruction? We, of course, have the risk of using standard projects with cheap materials for quick but low quality reconstruction. Also preserving historical context while implementing inclusivity and modern sustainable approach in architecture. The next pages, please. Page, please. Okay, and the next topic, the next theme is transformation of sleeping areas into multifunctional neighborhoods. Okay, the first one is pros of large sleeping estates, because we already have our sleeping areas, yes? And what we already have, it is affordability. Often these areas provide relatively affordable housing options compared to city centers, making them accessible to a wide range of residents. Community development. Over time, these areas can develop strong communities, quiet and green spaces, and also opportunity for transformation due to their size and layout. And what we can and what and how people can be happy in sleeping areas. Yes, we can create safe and comfortable accommodation. How can sleeping areas be transformed? Improving transformation in infrastructure and pedestrian-friendly design can enhance connectivity within the neighborhood and with surrounding areas, and also creating more green and public spaces such as parks, square, and community gardens. And also, what housing structure can replace them? And also, my important question, and should we build something additional new or keep the old approach that people are used to? Another word is innovation or traditional. We know that it is important to find the right balance when changing sleeping areas. While new ideas can be interesting, we must also think about what people who already live there want. Okay, may you show the next page? Thank you. And next question is, how are the interests of different stakeholders balanced and included in the development of the neighborhood? If people who have lost their homes will not be able to buy new housing, perhaps we should change the principles of construction and build housing for rent rather than buy. And community engagement and participation, actively involving residents, local businesses, community organization, and other stakeholders in the decision-making process. Understanding what people want and need. Identify the priorities of different stakeholders in crucial. And the last one, and maybe the main one, is government regulation. Is create a regulation body that will not allow illegal construction and theft of public funds. And the last term is habits of taking investment. It is about economic recovery, job creation, technology transfer and innovation, and also stability of confidence. Okay,
And
this was the last.
yeah, and then the next question is about how to collaborate the elder and younger people together in the process of the reconstruction. And when the city faces the problem of the population aging, there will be a large demand of more age-friendly design and including some social service and health care. So such a city, we need to associate all the demographic groups in the initial stage of the planning and make sure the decision process is transparent and collect all the ideas and views from all the groups, especially the vulnerable groups. Next, please. Then we will conclude some social demography and migrants challenges from the advantage perspective. After the returners who came back from the more developed countries after the war, they will have a higher needs of the housing and the quality, since they have experienced the living in housing with quality solutions there. And for those people who have relatives residents abroad, they could provide some support for the population within Ukraine. could give them some promotion of the use of new solutions in the future, which will be created from the synthesis of experience. And advantages also exist here because there will be a increase in the demand for housing in the safe regions, which while in the region closer to threats, there will be a decrease in the housing demand. And there will be a lack of resettlement area of maintenance of decent living condition for people. And because of the change of the family models, there will be a change amount for types of apartment. For example, families with children, immigrants board and living behind the retires, for whom a retirement home may become a priority over maintaining a one-bedroom apartment or a mansion. And they may be generated a revised gentrification, which will reveal inequality between poor and wealthy areas, as current over 16% of the population is living below the poverty line. Next, please. And finally are some strategies for Ukraine, but also for the global situations. So after a crisis or a war, we need to reconstruct and rehabilitate housing and infrastructure, which include the roads and some public space, so in order to revitalize the habitat environment and to help people recover from the war or crisis. And after the conflicts of the war, we face a remix of the social. So it is necessary to build an inclusive society and equal society to avoid those segments, those marginalization, and to take care about those vulnerable groups. And we also need to protect the cultural heritage since it could work as a landmark and a social identity. So it can contribute to perceive the identity and the community pride within a neighborhood. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, we tried to sum up the main ideas of our presentation in strategies, but we left the bigger part for further communication to observe main strategies. So thank you for your attention. We will be ready to answer your question.
Okay, thank you for your fruitful work, for your collaboration and presentation of your ideas. So maybe some questions immediately now. Who would like to ask? I have a question about what scenarios for the development of such residential areas should be avoided in your opinion. So you presented ideas what would be good and what should be avoided. What may be the worst scenario?
I can answer if anyone is not against. Bogdan has announced that one of the worst scenarios we are observing is using standard low quality projects. So we think that the work for fast and with losing quality and losing money is the worst scenario, because of course we can build up the big amount of housing fast and very cheap. But as a result, we will face the situation that we have nowadays with Soviet buildings. They were also built up very fast, quick and cheap and by standard projects. And now we are facing the idea of that we are trying to solve this problem. So we think that this scenario is the worst one.
Thank you. That's very important remark, I think. Any more comments?
Yeah, I would like to ask a question. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was really interesting. And I actually really liked this focus on the community building aspect. And sorry, I think my light is a bit too dim. Okay, yeah. So I wonder how you think this would also work between the existing communities, between the local communities and internally displaced people. I know in the case of Athens, we have people coming from overseas, but in this case, when we talk about internally displaced people, I wonder if you observed any clashes there, and if you did, how could this be addressed in relation to community building? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Okay, will someone answer or I can? Okay, then I will try to take the word. We haven't give the huge overlook of this part. So thank you for your question. It is the good thing for us to observe in further development. But if we are talking about the communication, we observed the problematics that if, for example, we are taking Bakhmut, Lysychansk, we can say that the people that lives there, it is mostly the old people that have already lived up their life and they don't want to live all that they get for example, 60, 70 years. And we can understand that we are focusing on this cluster of people. It is why we have to provide them with needs. And if we are talking about the third, fourth, and fifth line, we are talking about the multi-sex and multi-age society, and it is why it have to be correctly implemented, that these people should work together to build their further life. And it is a good question, how should the work be cooperated between the youth and the old one, between the women's, men's, children, and other clusters? Thank you. It is a good question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and if there are no more questions, let's move to the second group, which discussed the issues related to public spaces, green infrastructure, and well-being in such mass housing, but not only. So please, who would like to present your elaborations?
Is the public space group ready to present?
Yes, we're ready.
Yeah, okay.
I think they are still negotiating about who would like to. Okay. They're solving some technical issues. I hope several moments and we will move.
Should we give them some time and maybe then the next group could whoever is ready, the
If,
heritage or
yeah,
the
heritage,
mobility group?
Yes, sure. The heritage group we can present.
Okay,
Okay.
let's exchange. So heritage group goes now, and next one public spaces.
Okay. I hope you all can see my screen. Fine.
Yes.
Yeah. So our group was focusing on heritage and culture, and the idea. Oh, sorry. Let me move this. And learning from Troyeshna in the context of the regeneration and the reconstruction of Ukrainian cities, but also in the region's own reconstruction, potentially. So some of my group members wanted to point out some of the unique points of cultural value, or just unique points that are present within Trojana region. These are that it's a separated subculture or separated sub-region inside of Greater Kyiv. There's a number of socialist architecture and individual architecture projects. However, it's not only mass housing, and this is something we'd like to kind of bring attention to. It's built on the territory of a former village, and there's still this historical view of it as a village, and this kind of disconnection from the rest of the city. And due to the general availability of housing, it has attracted many people from outside Kiev, including IDPs, as well as, from the videos, it was quite obvious, a number of foreign nationals, including Afghani and Vietnamese populations. And it does have a lot of valuable green space. So we wanted to identify where some of the issues specifically with Trojana, but some stuff that we could infer that might be relevant to places in the reconstructing regions. The biggest issue that we noticed was the stigmatization of Trojana. So this is the action of describing or regarding someone or something as worthy of disgrace or great disapproval. When you search up Trojana on YouTube, I took a couple screenshots here. There's a lot of this stigmatization around it being the roughest area of Kiev, the most dangerous neighborhood, the most dangerous area. And this can lead to a process of othering, kind of disassociating or disconnecting the region with the rest of the city and kind of putting it down within the hierarchy of places. And this disinterest kind of leads to an isolation, both a physical disconnection, but also a social disconnection between its residents and the rest of the city, as well as the rest of the city and its residents. But another thing that was important to point out, it's not a homogeneous area. There are varied conditions. There's relative poverty and insecurity. And one thing that we thought was quite important was, due to the fact that it's quite a heterogeneous population, there's always going to be conflicting interpretations of culture and heritage. And it's negotiating these different ideas on what is culture and what is heritage. That is a big issue and what really needs to be a priority. So next we moved on to the priorities that we kind of identified in the context of cultural and heritage preservation. We thought recognizing both tangible and intangible heritage is important. Tangible heritage are the things we can physically touch and are usually a lot easier to identify and preserve, but importantly as well as intangible heritage, which consists of non-physical intellectual wealth, such as folklore, customs, beliefs, traditions, and knowledge. We think equal attention has to be paid to both, and it's a lot easier for intangible heritage to be lost in time almost. Another thing was the value of subcultures. This is kind of a parallel that I drew between the context of Trojana and what happens in Glasgow, actually. So there's the subculture that was mentioned in the presentation of the Gopniks. It's quite similar to a subculture in Glasgow found in the 1990s called Neds. And they were really portrayed quite negatively due to somewhat of fear, which can be warranted because of the violence of the subculture. But there was this almost guilt behind this inability to recognize the cultural capital that these groups do provide, and how they do arise because of the economic conditions within the area. And whilst they do produce some negative outcomes, there's talks of and ideas of graffiti and street art because of their kind of profile and this moral panic around these groups. They're kind of othered in this process, but it's recognizing the value of these subcultures that is really important. And through doing this, another one of our priorities was the elimination of stigmatization. We thought the easiest way this can be done is through simply bringing people to these areas to kind of open their eyes to what these areas really look like, and kind of eliminating the stigmatization. What we thought was the most important priority for any cultural heritage or context-related work is public participation and collaboration through stuff such as PPGIS, so public participation GIS, and workshops, as well as the use of bottom-up approaches. As using bottom-up approaches that involve the participation of local communities in the planning process is one of the easiest and most effective ways to preserve memory and culture. This can be done through, as mentioned, public workshops, surveys, or mapping exercises, which can help to identify the unique characteristics and needs of a place and develop strategies that reflect the community's vision and priorities rather than a top-down approach. Again, we want to also avoid this idea of exotification. This stigmatization and the exotification of this region, because of its isolation, has kind of created this mysterious nature or urban myth of the area, and the idea that it's quite unique from the rest of the city. And while this can be an interesting point to play upon, almost leaving this region as a left behind area, that is almost this idea of kind of similar to what you see with like war tourism or poverty tourism, that people come in and have a look at how the other people live. So there's this aspect of needing to balance the comfort and living conditions of residents with protecting the cultural aspects of the area. Residents shouldn't be living in poor conditions just to protect culture and heritage in Troyeshna and in any other war regenerating region. And finally, working in the security of the district is an important aspect, as this appears to be something that is a concern for many residents. The group came up with a couple interesting strategies, and kind of just a first approach was to reduce the stigmatization would be encouraging visitors to the area by promoting Troyeshna as simply more than just a residential area. But through this, ensuring Troyeshna's identity is not changed or replaced, but only furthered and brought attention to. One of the interesting strategies that was suggested was through hosting temporary cultural events in public spaces, and particularly leveraging the central market as a shared space, as strategic planning and the holding of big events are two important means of shaping the overall image of the city in kind of processes similar to placemaking and place branding. And the creation of space sharing practices can really help to create new socio-spatial relations within the region, the community, but also between the community. And then also it's important to align these strategies with other cultural efforts and the efforts to improve mobility and reducing isolation. Because as we've said, we can host any of these events, but if the mobility infrastructure isn't there, the effect really won't be as pronounced. And finally, integrating historical narratives into the urban fabric is an important thing. Here's a diagram of just what we could think of as the simple stakeholders involved within cultural heritage and context within the neighborhood. These were split into groups of formal actors and informal actors, and the need for negotiation, I don't know if negotiation is the best word, but a need for a dialogue and trust building and capacity building between the informal and the formal actors is something that the group identified as an important context. Because usually with these regions that are isolated, there's this growing distrust between local residents, grassroots initiatives, with the national, the city, the district level government, any ministry or private companies and organizations. So we thought strategies that can kind of build this dialogue and this trust are also really important in the context of shaping cultural heritage. A few pathways for implementation that were suggested was consolidation of NGOs and other formal stakeholders to create a common vision uniting Troyeshna's future, involving a number of stakeholders to sponsor the public projects identified, ensuring public participation is at the center of the planning for a strategic vision, creating preconditions for young people to live and act here, so that can be a constant interconnection within the region, and a clear strategy on behavior with social heritage, this concept of rethink, reconstruct, and replace. So some of our conclusions is, Troyeshna is often stereotypically thought in a negative light by residents of Kiev, and therefore its heritage and culture is often disregarded and devalued, but this isn't something that should occur. It's not only a mass housing project, and it has much more to offer. The value of the cultural and heritage within the region needs to be highlighted within strategic plans and visions aligned with each other, with plans to improve the conditions of Troyeshna. And finally, some of these conclusions that we think that might be important for war affected districts and regeneration is how can we utilize the change in the context of cultural and heritage, the importance of public participation and collaboration at the center of all processes, the idea of avoiding stigmatization and exotification, and balancing these concepts of preservation and development. With especially war-torn regions, a lot of redevelopment needs to occur. But how can this be balanced appropriately in a way that can still preserve the heritage and culture within the area? And that's everything we had. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, and the whole team who worked on heritage and cultural context. Once again, I invite everybody to short discussion. So please, are there any comments or questions? Dear students, dear colleagues?
I have short comment and question.
Yeah.
Possible. First, Andrew, thank you so much for you and the whole team, of course. Thank you so much for your presentation. I like it a lot, just because I think that you have captured the idea of this area so well and have illustrated its multifaceted characters. So thank you so much for this. This is the short impression, and also the question. You have said that it would be a good to propose to develop some cultural initiatives and cultural projects here in this residential area. But all we know are good examples of providing cultural initiatives for the places with the difficult heritage, for instance, like industrial heritage and so on, which are based on the specificity of this place. So what kind of the cultural initiatives is possible to realize, on your opinion, on this residential area, because it has its specificity from this point? So what kind of initiatives are possible in your opinion? Thank you.
That's a really good question. Without knowing too much about the context, I think specifically within the idea of this residential heritage, some ideas could be between sharing the life stories of individuals living in long-lasting or long-term residence, sharing these stories of growing up in areas such as this, kind of showing the residential heritage and the heritage of individuals. That was one thing one of the group members said, kind of sharing the history of each of the units, so the apartments, and kind of telling the story of these residential trajectories from when people came and until now.
Thank you so much. Just one thing, or maybe just one example. In my presentation, and have used a few days ago, I have used the example of Peremoha, residential area of Peremoha in Dnipro, and there is such a museum of the former villages in the place of which this district was created. So this such a museum was launched there, and it is very popular. So it could be a good perspective also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elena, for this very good question. And I have a short question, Andrew and the whole team. Maybe you can ask who should initiate the platforms for dialogue. You mentioned that the neighborhood needs dialogue first of all, but who is the number one responsible person or organization or institution, so on? Or this should be multi-vectored activity?
Yeah, that's a really good question. If anyone else in my group would like to take the floor, I can try and answer, but if anyone else wants to speak, they're welcome to.
I can add some
Great.
things. I think that both from the people, from society, and from the residential, from government, should be involved to this platform. Of course, it should be driven from government, I think, because they can make that platform. In Ukraine, we have a good developed area of digital country, digital properties for people like DIA, and I think we can add some points to it about their districts, and everyone could discuss their opinions about future of their homes. I think it's the most common thought that they
Thank
can
you,
speak.
Vladislav. Yeah, I think that's a very important addition to the discussion because digital initiatives show that they are quite a good way for ensuring and for initiating this dialogue between different stakeholders. And there are many other examples in Ukraine when some digital instruments are quite successful in many cities. Okay.
Yes, I think
yeah.
Government should be like a manager in this situation, but the material should be driven from people who are living there.
Yeah, thank you, Vladislav. Any more comments? Okay, let's move there to the our discussion part, our forum, and now please. I know that group that worked on public spaces is ready, so please, the floor is yours.
So our topic were public spaces, green infrastructure, and well-being.
The first is that we try based on our discussion, we list the first is why the civil society is important, because the participation of civil society is conducive to solving the inequality of social space and promoting the green and sustainable development of public space. And the other thing is that civil society can provide funds, information, and technical support for public space and green infrastructure project. And next slide, please.
After the collapse of the Soviet Union, we have a problem that people in Ukraine do not know how to participate in the public events. They do not understand that they have the right to influence public spaces and the development of the city in general. During the several iterations, people simply did not understand that older people wanted more landscaping, with the exceptions of the young people who clearly wanted what they wanted to do in the neighborhoods. All through iteration was planned as a city within a city. It has no self-government, although it has a large population and is dependent on the downtown. To do this, we need to communicate with the public to explain their rights and opportunities and how public precipitation works. Ukraine has implemented a decentralization reform that teaches how to solve problems at the local level and the community budgets. But in fact, the centralization did not take place in the capital because Kyiv's administrative districts did not receive their own self-government. Next slide.
And then we discuss and find some ways to solve the problem of the participation of public space. And the tool here is PPGIS questionnaire, interview, and observation. The first is because we already know the fact is that most people, they don't know what function the public space should have. These are the fact that based on our group members' investigation. So we decide to use guided questionnaire, such as before we start the questionnaire, before we start our investigation, we try to give the function of public space and let people they say, and we also need to group different age group to say what kind of activities that different groups need. And we also want to use the observation. We will choose different periods of the day, working days and weekends, and different period of one day to observe people's behavior in public space to get more information about public need. And next slide, please.
So an example of community involvement is Osakurki Pozniki, which is one of the most densely populated residential areas of the city. At the same time, the only park in Osakurki Pozniki is a small square with young trees near the Pozniki metro station. De facto, the park area is so extremely important for ensuring a normal and harmonious life for the residents of not only Osakurki Pozniki, but also the entire Darnitsky district and the city of Kyiv as a whole. People cleaned up the park themselves and thought to obtain a nature conservation status. Another example is Samosad. It started with boxes as a cluster garden. The first boxes were planted on 2015. The land where Samosad is now located was leased from the Russian embassy. At that time, it was 2014. Even before the Revolution of Dignity, local residents didn't allow anything to be built there. There were protests and the site was in very poor state. The location is such that a green area is needed there, so that people could sit down to take a break in the heat because it is important for health. This was a request from elderly people and parents with small children, from dog owners with small puppies who want to let them run safely on the grass. Over the past few years, Samosad can be considered a successful case in terms of an urban project because it has been founded, supported, and maintained by the community for so many years. But gradually, it is also becoming a successful case in the legal sphere. Next slide.
City policies should clarify the meaning of public space because in some studies, public space is divided into private ownership and public ownership, and private ownership of public space is something restricted. City policies may include a ban of privatization of open and green spaces. This will help prevent their conversion into private property and preserve their public accessibility. City authorities should pay attention to protecting open and green spaces from illegal development. This can be done by strictly controlling construction projects, establishing building boundaries and protection zones, and imposing severe sanction for violation of these rules. The city authorities should promote active community involvement in decision making regarding open and green spaces. This may include holding public consultation, establishing special communities with the participation of public organizations, and ensuring public control over policy implementation. City policies should set environmental standards for open and green spaces to preserve their natural diversity and ecological value. This may include banning the use of certain chemicals, setting limits on the size of development, and using environmentally friendly technologies. The city development government should invest in informing the community about the importance of open and green spaces, as well as the need for the preservation and public access. Providing and education into the community will help increase the awareness and support for the protection of these spaces.
Then beside the government, what else that we also need to do? The first is that we need to define the participation of public space, because there are many different subjects such as churches, governments, residents, local business, and other organizations. So that's what we need to do in Choresina first. And then we need to know the development of green public space. They are very complex. So, and they has many different categories. such as from the function of public space from landscape value to aesthetic value, from sports to entertainment, and from the classification, the type of public space also has diversity from the marquee, street to pedestrian. So based on this situation, we think that we need to set a functional zone in Troyeshina based on the needs of different groups. However, it also need to note that the ideal public space can meet the needs of different groups, but in reality, it is difficult to achieve the balance of all groups in public space. Next slide, please.
So in general urban policy of the secularization of public spaces and limiting their accessibility to all should be aimed at preserving open and green spaces as a valuable resource, ensuring equal access for all citizens and taking into account their needs and environmental value. The religious kiosk has erected illegally without any permits and is located in the protective buffer zone of UNESCO monuments, as some put in a holy place, right to the foundation near the remains of the 10th church. The area around the church is a popular public space. The church of the 10th itself is the first stone church of the period of Ukraine Rus. Prince Vladimir of Kyiv began thinking about building it after baptism in 988, and construction began in 989 and was completed in years. A decision was made to dismantle it, but the work is currently underway and implementation is delayed. Next.
During the Soviet occupation of Kiev, most districts were designed under the modernist influence and on the instructions of the Communist Party. The streets were designed for the car traffic, and no one took into account the needs of people with limited mobility. As such, there were a few public areas. There were only transit areas and remain so today. Separate areas for recreation were built, but they were not accessible and attractive. The territory was divided into clear zones dedicated to one type of activity, for example, home, work, or recreation. And now people are trying to plant greenery to make their neighborhood more attractive. And Troyeshina has a very wide roads and large spaces between houses, which were designed for the construction of the subway. In the absence of the subway, the spaces are abandoned because people are still hoping for the stations to open. Many people believe that the subway will solve the transportation problems of Troyeshina, but depends of the subway negatively affects on development of the other models of transportation. Next slide.
Community involvement and partnership with local organization and businesses can be an effective approach to revitalizing abandoned spaces. Such projects promote community involvement and ownership of the space, which can increase its maintenance. Abandoned spaces along transportation arteries are often associated with transportation and traffic problems. City officials can consult with transportation experts to identify problems areas and develop plans to improve the movement safety and accessibility of these spaces. This may include redesigning roads, creating pedestrian alleys, bike lanes, or improving public transportation. Green spaces not only improve the appearance, but also contribute to better air quality and noise reduction. The use of art and culture can revitalize neglected spaces and make them attractive to residents and visitors. This can include creating murals, sculptures, exhibitions, or hosting cultural events in the space. Next slide.
From above, it seems that the war is possibly affecting the implementation of the country's current policies, such as sustainable development and its priorities, such as the prioritization of environmental problems and considering people's survival first. Public spaces used to be a place of peace and relaxation, but now they're often dangerous because there are open spaces without shelter. The war has already affected the development of energy efficiency, and Russia is actively launching terrorist attacks on energy facilities. We have no other choice but to switch to other energy sources. For example, there is a hydroelectric power plant near Kyiv that is under threat of being destroyed by the Russians, as was the case with the Kakhovka power plant. If the Kyiv hydroelectric power plant is destroyed, the water level in the city will rise by 7 meters, which is a manifestation of ecocide urban violence. After the massive power outages, businesses started using autonomous power generators running on the gasoline. People have no choice, and no one is such ambitious things about the environment, but only about their own survival. So climate neutrality is difficult to achieve now. Also, Ukraine is switching to alternative energy sources because it no longer uses Russian resources, which Russia used as a level of political influence to Ukraine, trying to make us a colony. Maybe that's all. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Who was thinking? It was Danila. Thank you, Danila, and the rest of the team for the very insightful presentation. It was interesting the way that you have highlighted the ways that public spaces are vulnerable right now in this area and during the war. But apart from the conflicts that you mentioned with the religious groups, have you discussed at all, like in the post-war context, let's say, what other conflicts may arise if we have IDPs coming in the area and the public space is becoming this place where these people interact?
I hear I think we will not have a big problem with with IDPs in country with different cultures, because we're really all the same, as you can say. It's one religion in most, so it's not a big trouble to implicate refugees into these places. It's the more dangerous it will be Russian propaganda religious organization that will be forcing their powers to Ukraine. So it's more be outside country manipulation, but inside it's more unite. There's no big difference in this.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else with any comments or questions? Okay, should we move to the mobility group then?
Yeah, let's move. So please, mobility group. Mobility and social spatial integration in the case of Croatia. We have, you can put next slide. So first of all, background. Certain traffic in Croatia can be variable, but it is mainly characterized by very heavy traffic, especially in the central points on the major highways. The location of Croatia on the left bank of the Dnieper, the distance from the city center, as well as the needs for residents of the district to drive to the right side of the river for walk contribute to these traffic jams. Traffic may be heavier during peak rush hours and depends on road conditions, specific day of the week, and the holiday periods. Next slide. Peak traffic can be determined from 7 to 9 in the morning before the start of the working day and from 5 to 7 p.m. after the end of the walk. For more than 300,000 inhabitants live in that live in Croatia, and the transport problem, this transport problem is becoming one of the most urgent. The poor condition of the roads, the large number of passengers, and the lack of subway cause frequent traffic jams and overloaded roads. Despite these problems, a positive aspect is the active development of cycling infrastructure, and the process of development of cycling infrastructure in Kyiv began especially in Croatia. Next slide. What are the mobility challenges for the outskirts of Kyiv? Next slide. Demand. First of all, it is necessary to develop mechanisms for satisfying the demand. In a capitalistic economy, of course, this is done by private companies. But in Kyiv, private carriers degraded due to the lack of control and lack of clear transport development policy from the local government. In most European cities, there are private carriers that quickly cover demands even in unstable economy. To improve the situation, it is necessary to strictly regulate the work of private carriers. Development and further implementation of comprehensive mobility plan, including a public transport development plan, in addition to a simple scheme, a concept with prescribed its principles is extremely necessary. So that when the surrounding factors change, it is possible to apply these principles to make changes in projects as well. Currently, there is no well thought out planning policy in city at all. Implementation of 15-minute city concept. With its implementation, there is no need for large carrying capacity of the transport system. Most activities, including walk, will be available to residents in their district. The implementation of this concept in Croatia should start with the creation of local job opportunities. The largest flow of people, there is a pendulum migration to the center for work. Next slide. Social equity issues. Improve economic affordability, implement a tight fair system to provide discounts for free transportation services for low-income groups, develop and expand shared transportation services such as bike sharing and car sharing to offer more economical transportation options, increase walkability, adopt the people-centered approach in urban planning and transportation planning to ensure services cover all communities, especially low-income and remote areas. Promotion multimodal transportation, enabling walking, cycling, and public transport. Specific action to encourage walking and cycling can complement public transport use. Ensure safety and inclusivity, design and implement safety measures for women, children, and elderly, and people with disabilities, such as improving the accessibility of public transport, promote social integration, ensure
ensure community participation and the representation of diverse stakeholders in the transportation planning and policy making process. Implements community outreach and education programs to enhance public understanding of engagement with transportation policies and systems.
If we talk about mobility, it is important to mention the local problems faced by pedestrians. It's artificial barriers of street infrastructure. Obviously, the whole situation in Troyeshchina makes space inaccessible for many people. And unfortunately, due to the war, the share of people with disabilities who suffer most from physical barriers has increased significantly. During the planning of district, few pedestrian crossings were designed across the wide highways in Troyeshchina. As a result, people have no choice but to use underpasses if they want to move to the other side of the street. Also, it is said that such barriers are a feature of Soviet planning because the USSR didn't want to recognize the existence of people with disabilities in its country and created a space only for healthy people. Now we want to see inclusiveness for everyone in Ukraine and in Kyiv in particular. It is important that in the 2021 National Strategy for creating a barrier-free space in Ukraine was formed, so first step has been already taken. What can we do? Talking about installing elevators everywhere sounds unrealistic. Meanwhile, the lack of alternative options makes life difficult for a significant part of the residents of Troyeshchina. The best option is to abandon underpasses in favor of pedestrian crossings. We think that it is possible to do. Bandwidth will not drop if we just synchronize the existing traffic lights correctly. The main thing is to provide new and existing pedestrian crossings with tactile payments and to remove curbs that makes movement difficult. And pedestrian crossings also have another advantage. The efficiency of using public transport increases as the accessibility to transport stops improves. The more comfortable public transport is, the less people use private cars.
So we move to one of the main cases, the issue of metro to Troyeshchina. Troyeshchina turned out to be the most remote of all the suburbs of the capital due to its inconvenient transport connections. The construction of the Podilsko-Vyhurivska subway line was first discussed in the 1980s, and the entire structure of Troyeshchina was closely tied to these plans. The first section from Vokzalna to Voskresenska terminal station was supposed to be completed by 2001. However, even in 2024, it is still impossible to get to Troyeshchina by metro. The collapse of the Soviet Union played a decisive role in the fate of this metro line, because since the 1990s, Ukraine didn't have enough funds for such an expensive project. Also, the modern authorities tried to resume the construction. The beginning of the war suspended the work of all processes related to Troyeshchina. Next slide, please. If you calculate the cost of building a subway in Troyeshchina in today's conditions, it will cost approximately $5 billion. This sum will be enough to rebuild the cities of eastern Ukraine that suffered during the full-scale invasion, such as Mariupol or Bakhmut. So it answers the question about the relevance of such a project during the war in the conditions of Ukraine's limited budget. It is worth understanding that the construction of the subway is not a solution to all problems. Since many types of public transport travel through the district, our attention should be paid to their development. A tram along the entire left bank of Kyiv to the nearest metro station on the right bank, and a bus rapid transit through the recently completed Northern Bridge will be key alternatives to connect Troyeshchina with the main part of Kyiv. It is important that these proposals should be implemented together to allow for alternative routes in case of unexpected critical situations. Next, please. The discussion of more than just a public transport. In Kyiv, the shelter function highlights the strategic importance of public transport infrastructure in urban safety planning. Public transport systems, particularly metro and subway stations, have been utilized as emergency shelters during missile attacks due to their structural robustness, underground location, wide distribution, and ease of reaching. Also, public transport stations serve as an alternative shelter options for protected rooms.
So, like every public space, people encounter social diversity on public transport. However, unlike other public spaces, public transportation is a dense and compact public space which changes its meaning and function as a public space. Next, it will be an example from Estonia. Researcher at Tallinn University asks whether transportation system can become the active part of urban culture as squares, parks, and streets, can be a tool to reduce social exclusion and promote integration. Researchers are taking a mirror, a folding chair, a tea table, a broom, and other household objects onto trams in Estonia's capital in what they call artist interventions. They try to make the transportation system available public space by combining elements of the public transportation system with other elements. As the last question of our discussion, what approaches should be taken to expand the network of electric transport in the conditions of the breakdown of the city's energy system? We propose two options. First of all, integrating renewable energy sources into the electric transport network. For example, a solar car charging station is a facility that uses solar energy to charge electric vehicles. This solution can reduce reliance on conventional energy sources. Secondly, build efficient public electric vehicles, charging infrastructure network, forge collaborations with local authorities, businesses, and property proprietors to secure optimal sites for deploying charging infrastructure. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Valerian, everyone, for the presentation and the work that you did. I think it was very interesting how you saw public transport as another way of, as another expression of public space, actually. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
I can, yeah, I want to ask a question. So you mentioned a few challenges about mobility. So if you were given the chance, I wonder within your proposals, what would be the first thing that you would like to implement?
We have problems in each layer, in each level of planning, as in local level, as sidewalks and such things. Yeah, as in city level with public transport, with metro line, which is absent. Yeah, so maybe first of all, it will be some maybe bus line or tram line that will connect this district to the city center, and of course, in these projects, in such projects, we need to also make some updates for local infrastructure, for maybe parks, squares that are nearby the stations and so on. So for me, it's much more important to solve the problem with the traffic, with the situation that actually it's really hard to get out and go to Troyeshina, and then we can manage it and make some smaller projects around it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sorry, please. You.
No, I was just wondering, is this is the last group, is that right? Yes.
Yeah, the last group.
So so we could have a discussion. I think the quality of the work and the kind of range of thoughts and opportunities and the kind of depth of the analysis in particularly in some of the presentations is very high, and I guess it demonstrates the time the students have spent thinking about this and collaborating. So I was very pleased to see the level of work here. My question now was more to do with what can we do with this? So what collectively can we think we can influence, and how would everyone want to get involved in that process? Because I guess there are lots of kind of theoretical conclusions here, so more about how to do things and what considerations we need to take when regeneration takes place, with a particular focus on mass housing. There were also some practical thoughts about the potential opportunities. So some interventions that can take place, some actions that can take place in relation to creating collaboration and dialogue and bringing together communities and institutions. And there is also there are also a number of questions for future thinking, with the need for more in-depth research and on the how and what to implement first, and what do we prioritize and who we prioritize. So I was wondering, when we thought about this particular workshop, we thought that we could bring this information together, so what we have discovered, the discussions that have taken place, and try to create some sort of toolkit or resource or something that helps us connecting to the institutions organizing reconstruction in the future, but also connecting with other communities of academics and students who want to continue thinking about these issues. So my question was, how are people thinking maybe the best way to do this? So do we create a small book where where we can share and organize this, or do we upload this information on our website? Do we bring together all these presentations into a very big PowerPoint? What would be useful, particularly from the academic perspective and from the students' perspective, so for your own work as you move forward? I think these are questions that I had, and I'd like to think about before we finish. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts about it, or we can...
Do the students, this is a question for the students, whether you would like to, maybe first of all, would you think it would be interesting to collect all that information so you can have access to it in a way, like, and keep it?
Yeah, it's will be nice for us. Maybe in some Google folder with access through the link or something like that.
Just to understand then, you mean creating an online resource that everyone can access to, with papers and maybe the presentations and all of that. And then if we wanted to influence, because there are many ideas and suggestions that were presented across all of the themes that I think could be helpful for someone who has the power to look into the future of the city. So there will be resources coming into Ukraine. What kind of circles you feel we can influence with this information and with this think tank, in a way, that we have here in the future? It doesn't have to be next week, but as all of these moves to a peaceful state in the next few years, in the next few months and few years in reconstruction. So what can we what can we do with all this that could be helpful. So we'd definitely be building some sort of online resource, so that's something we can do. But then if we were to influence, I think it would be good to think what we would like to do with it and where.
Yeah, actually, as I understand, our university have some connection with organization that which are interested in some changes. So and also we have connection with some local government structure, and a lot of our students in this summer will be on the practice in such organizations. So as I understand, also our students can will have an opportunity to make some changes, maybe in the practice, maybe later on the walk, and it's yeah, it's plan. It needs to be a plan for a couple of years and maybe even decades. A lot of plans every group of people can afford to us, and actually we can use all this information of our work to make some cases, make some progress, yeah, in moving to changes.
That's great to know. Thank you. And we will discuss with Kostya and Oleski as well on how to engage with these organizations and how to follow the work of the students during the summer if they will be involved in working in practice. Jessica?
Hi, everyone. I think it will be really interesting to make this kind of toolkit, but specifically for communities or neighborhoods who want to get together and be involved in all these reconstruction of their neighborhoods. But specifically, I think it will be interesting for them to know which NGOs or who can they approach to and how they can be approached and have some of this participation.
I think that's a good idea, Jessica, and I think we have some resources to put this in the shape of a kind of moving toolkit or a kind of flexible toolkit that more information can come in as we move forward. And I think the social, perhaps trying to focus on the people, on the kind of bottom-up perspectives and the notions of collaboration that would support and enhance activities and maybe help increasing scale of some of the initiatives that are taking place. I think that would be a good start. Okay, so that was more on the practical aspects. I think Oleski and Maritina, it would be good to have some to spend a little time thinking about the theme itself, the proposal that we had in terms of mass housing, and have a reflection of the main recommendations or the main ideas that may be emerging in the context of mass housing viewed from all these different perspectives. So do you have any kind of key points that you feel are coming through the presentations that would be helpful to think about?
As for me, I think that we learned from these presentations that different mass housing contexts, they are really different, but they have some common theme at the same time. So we cannot make them equal, and we have no common recipes, but we may have common values and common approaches that may be domesticated in specific conditions, that may be translated into the local environment. And this is very important, I think, both for us, for the representatives of academia, and for students as well, because many of them, they're going to be, once again, they're going to practice, and they will fulfill these ideas maybe in the future. And in terms of some academic rethinking of this issue, I think maybe once again some common publication would be a good idea. We may join our effort and do this.
Nadia? Nadia, no, I don't
Please, Nadia.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm from phone. I try to find when there is microphone. Yeah, I want to say you thank you that you invited me personally and students of Kyiv, Kyiv National University of Architecture, Construction and Architecture. It was very important experience for us because we have a lack of urban studies, urban knowledges on our faculty, and our architects need these different activities. So I'm personally worked with mass housing for years, and I think it's very perspective after the war. And I want to tell you only that we are open, and we will be glad for cooperation, for further work together. And thank you for this exciting 3 days. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really helpful to hear that it has been helpful and inspiring. Thank you. Martina, did you want to say
Yeah, it was very interesting to see all the presentations today, and I agree with Sole and then Alex that the students managed again to, once again, like last year, to produce a lot during a very, very short time. I was happy to see that there was also a reference to Athens and the lessons that can be learned from that context, which is actually something that we have been trying to get our heads around of how cities that go through all kinds of conflict, like different types of conflict, can learn from each other. So in terms of the things that the students have noted, it was very interesting to hear about, new models of housing ownership that could be interesting to see happening, like how these mass housing estates could be transformed, not just in terms of infrastructure to become more accessible, but also in terms of access to housing through policies. How community engagement has been important throughout themes. And how there is a need for a responsive policy making that kind of addresses, engages with communities and maybe it can be innovative while also embracing, the existing traditions and the histories of these places. Yeah, and how this can become more accessible, not just for its infrastructure, but also, I think it was it the Heritage Group that said that this housing estate is more than just housing. There's so much more into these places to see. So it would be very interesting to try and unfold all these different dimensions of this mass housing projects.
By the way, just today I received a new mental map of Kyiv. That's one by the third-year students, and there is an inscription that Troyeshina is a fail of urban planning. I disagree with this statement for the most part. But what is important for us? We should have such workshops, we should have such discussions and in exchanges of knowledge in order not to make some the same or similar fails when we are transforming these areas. In Athens, in Edinburgh, in Kyiv, in Dnipro, in São Paulo, worldwide. So we need this share of experience in order to know which works good and which works bad, etc. Therefore, I am thankful for everybody. I am thankful for students from another locations to sharing their experiences. It was a great pleasure to have you here the 3 days.
Thank you, Oleski, and I completely agree. I think the working together is the key for the future of all of these communities of students when they come to the workplace. So understanding, working with other disciplines, or people who have different disciplinary experiences, but also working in different contexts and learning from different contexts. So I think it will be fundamental to get used to these kind of exchange and interaction. So I absolutely agree. So in terms of what we do with this, I guess we will create, we will try to create a resource for everyone to access, and maybe we can share the presentations and the work that you have produced and that has been of highest quality. And then look into this potential toolkit as a kind of small step towards resources that can be further developed as we continue with this initiative. And then we will work together to bring teams from Athens and Kyiv and Edinburgh to see if we can again create open up a little bit the think tank that we have created to include other colleagues in Athens and include the experiences in Athens, and particularly in relation to community engagement, to bottom-up participatory initiatives, and a kind of reaction to different types of conflict. So, yes, I guess I think we have to come to an end with this. Yes, Martina.
Can I add?
Yes.
Sorry. So I think it would be helpful if you guys, I can put my email address. So if you could send me your presentations, I will put my email address right now at if you don't have it already, on the chat. So, and we will try to create like a board, or I don't know if I can share it with you here, but if not, I will like a board where you can write up like all the ideas that, like let's say like a summary board of all the ideas that you have worked on for its theme. And yeah, and in the following days, we will also issue your certificates of participation that are signed from both universities for all of you that have completed like the 3 days of the workshop. These are from the technical parts, I guess. Yeah, but I hope you enjoyed that interaction. It would be ideal to have it in person, but we're just trying to use all the technical, all the technology that facilitates that interaction as much as possible. So yeah, we hope that it wasn't too bad. And that you at least managed to have that like a useful and sorry, and a useful exchange all these days. All right, sorry about that.
Don't worry. Thank you, Martina. So that's great. So if you can add the email address, that would be really helpful. And if anyone has any thoughts or would like to continue discussion after the workshop or get involved with any of these initiatives, please let us know. And Oleski, Martina, myself, and Kostya, and all colleagues in both universities can help to bring people together. So. Yes, please. And we do have the University of Edinburgh has some scholarships, particularly for Ukrainian students. I think we're working to get more funding. So ideally, if anyone has a kind of longer term career perspective and you want to think about studying later at postgraduate level, those are undergraduate or at PhD level, we can look into options as well. But thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Martina and Oleski, for helping with the organization and everything.
Yeah, pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, we just
Thank you so much. Thank you, Martina. Thank you, everybody.
We hope to stay in touch with everyone. So yeah, we'll see you around.
See you all soon.
Good luck with all your projects.
Thank you. Okay. Bye. Bye.
Thanks and bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.